Hey everyone, welcome to Black Spring with Autumn on this Sunday, and I hope everybody is doing well. Um, it's been a while, and of course we've had quite a bit of developments, but it's always Groundhog's Day, it seems, when it comes to the Democrat Party and their tactics and their playbook. So today, if you don't mind, I'd like to take a look at, I was just wondering if you just go with me here. It's going to take me a little bit of time today, so if you'll just work with me here, I'd like for you to go with me here just now. I know what you're thinking. You might already have a clue, but what do these two personalities or figures have in common? Well, today that's what this particular stream and potential chat is all about. It's about Mr. Sanders, Bernie Sanders, that is. He's quite a bit of a hot topic and hot button figure in the news these days, as well as his ideas and his vision. So we're going to talk about a little bit, look at Bernie's vision today. And the vision pretty much looks a little bit like Joseph Stalin's 1936-ish Constitution. So with that, I just want to examine a little bit, not to overwhelm, because there's quite a bit here. There's quite a bit here to chew on, if you will. Of course, we're gonna be looking at the 1936 Constitution, as well as versus Bernie's 21st century economic Bill of Rights. So if you will just humor me on that, that is what we are going to take a look at in this particular segment. We'll be looking at it. It's quite a bit to chew on, so I just want to get it out, and I'm happy to engage, and I'm happy to have everybody here as always. So if you want to drop a line in, I will get to it as soon as possible. I just want to kind of have an opportunity to try to put these things together, kind of connect some things, and hopefully, maybe we can all meet at the same, at a similar vision at the end of this particular segment and stream. So without further ado, I will keep going here. So I'd like to start out with a little bit of landscape here, and which brings me to another figure, as we all know her as AOC, aka Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I'm sure you've heard many names, or many, she's got quite a few social media aliases by now. But mainly, the thing about these two personalities dealing with AOC, it's, they both have these tactics of basically they kind of mobilize and they radicalize people, the poor people. It's kind of a for the people kind of thing, equality for all is what they tout, and they seem to do that quite regularly, and we're going to explore that specifically, is what we're going to look into. But I do want to continue with just giving some ideas, like just generally, like I think the ideology or the landscape behind these two people. I think they're all very much somewhat Saul Alinsky. I know you may have heard Saul Alinsky and his rules for radicals associated with Hillary Clinton, even Barack Obama. I mean, a lot of these people have surrounded themselves with in the spirit of radicalism, or figures or kindred spirits of radicalism. So generally, AOC and Bernie Sanders, they seem to have this tactic, which is very much Saul Alinsky to me, where, they kind of rally people together, whether it's a specific group or say that they're for the people, and they're all, at all times, they never seem to stop trying to convince people they're trying to make people believe more about the power, believe in power that they don't have, or what they would like the opposite person or the opponent to think that they have, rather than what they actually have. So that's kind of my definition, or that's kind of me paraphrasing what I think Saul Alinsky It's he. That's what he invokes to kind of draw people in. And whether you get fleeced at the end or not, or it's all it's still pretty radical at the end of the day. And I think AOC does the same thing. She's very much entitled, and we're going to empower people, and we're going to rally people together and make them believe that they have more power in who they are, and what they have already. And also, they're going to mobilize and empower people by giving them government granted entitlements as well as rights. So with that said, I would like to just quickly just have a little bit of a look at, let's just look a little bit here at the Green New Deal. I know this is a lot to chew on, so I don't want to overwhelm anybody, but I just had to, just because Bernie he seems to be surging in the polls, at least according to the mainstream mediocres, he's surging in the polls. And so if you don't mind, let's just take like a small look here. I just want to take a little bit of a look at I guess it would be just the resolution of the Green New Deal. I mean, I'm sure it's just riveting, but I just want to just have a quick little look here at, she basically came out with this whole, she rolled out the Green New Deal. And of course, I just want to skip over. You can read this for yourself. I'll probably include it for you. This is actually on the ocasio-cortez.house.gov sites. And it talks about, of course, all the materialization for this particular bill, trying to prove the case, why it's necessary. But, it also reminds me, I'm kind of going a little bit backwards, like a little bit retro. To me, the Green New Deal has a bit of to me, it's kind of retro, and it's kind of the impetus of to me, they're trying to sell something of like kind of an industrial revolution in terms of mobilizing all of our resources together. And they're parroting the new Green Deal basically, to me, parrots the Industrial Revolution, where of course the US at the time, the US was a major producer of steel between the 18th and 19th century, but it's also, in my opinion, to be a bit, it's not only socialism, but it's on the way to something much worse. So, of course, here you see where they talk about, they basically blame the U.S. for things that relate back to the Industrial Revolution. They talk about how the United States has historically been responsible for a disproportionate amount of greenhouse gas emissions, having emitted 20% of the global greenhouse gas emissions through 2014, and has a high technological capacity. And so therefore, we are compelled as the United States to take a leading role in reducing emissions through economic transformation. So there again, that's another it's a selling point. It's like two truths and a lie, or something all in one. Whatever they have to do to sell it. But at the same time, they need to go through capitalism to get there, to get their result. They don't want capitalism to survive, but they need it in order to keep the wealth, to keep producing the wealth. Okay? All right. So then also, you'll find later that in Bernie's case, he will start touting FDR, and here again, talking about America, will be the leader in, of course, solar, wind, and clean energy. And here it goes, wrapping right back into the Green New Deal. These ideas of retrofitting buildings, and environmental, the U.S. being this environmental superpower, and how it's going to create all these green jobs. And it's typical for Democrats to create a crisis, which they cite a crisis in here. This particular this particular bill, or whatever the status it is at this point, it talks about the U.S. actually being in a crisis, not only via climate change. It talks about other crises that are that the U.S. is contributing to. Of course, not only that, the deadly forest fires, many things here. So I'll just keep going. So it's like several related crises. The U.S. is experiencing all these crises, and we have the third worst level of socioeconomic mobility developed in the developed world before the Great Recession. So, and of course, and then they just wrap all this other stuff into it, and I'll get to that in just a second. But so here it is. Here's a plan to basically bankrupt us and create a financial crisis, and then enters like an FDR or you got to come in and save. You create a crisis, you manufacture a crisis, but you also have an opportunity. Never let a good crisis go to waste, right? Like Rahm Emanuel was quoted as saying during the recession when the bubble burst, back during Obama's first term. So with that, I'd like to get into the actual specific bill. I'd like to take a little bit of a look at there's a couple of articles we're going to look at. We're not going to go too crazy because this is an entire constitution that we would be looking into. Okay, so here you have, we're only going to look at like maybe articles 4 or like 2 and 4 today. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to minimize that a little bit more. I'm going to shrink that down just a little bit more and condense it, so hopefully you can see that here. It's generally, we're looking at Article 1, which it just basically says that the Union of the Soviet Socialist Republic is a socialist state of workers and peasants. Okay, and then 2, you have the Soviets' working people's deputies, which grew and attained strength as a result of the overthrow of the landlords and capitalists and the achievement of dictatorship of the proletariat, constitute the political foundation of the USSR. So this is our 1936 Constitution we're looking at. And number 3, we have the USSR. All power belongs to the working people of town and country as represented by the Soviets of working people's deputies. And finally, we'll stick in this segment for a bit, the socialist system of economy and socialist ownership of the means and instruments of production, firmly established as a result of the abolition of capitalist system of economy, the abrogation of private ownership of the means and instruments of production, and the abolition of the exploitation of man by man, constitute the economic foundation of the USSR. So, with that said, you can see, I think there's a lot of parroting here between these articles and basically Bernie Sanders' 21st Century Economic Bill of Rights. And these are American entitlements. So these are not, our principles in this country were founded upon natural rights and human rights, and those are rights that were by the founders endowed by our Creator. So we as human beings, we can create rights, we can create laws, but we cannot create things that we've already been given. So those were the founding principles that our Constitution is supposed to protect. But with these tyrants, they want to tell you what's best and tell you what your rights are and how to, what's needed or how much you deserve or what levels you deserve what you get, your earnings, your property, and all of these things, your education. So if we just look briefly here also, we can just take a look at, Bernie's, we can just have a look at Bernie's Bill of Rights here, which is, pretty similar to what I just went over, but I just wanted to kind of, extract a little bit so that you can see for yourself. I mean, the parallels that I see here, to me, they're pretty close. Okay. So in the 21st Century Economic Bill of Rights, Mr. Sanders, I just want to read just a little bit of this. You can read it for yourself. It says, while the Bill of Rights protects us from the tyranny of an oppressive government, many in the establishment would like the American people to submit to the tyranny of oligarchs, multinational corporations, Wall Street banks, and billionaires who now control almost every aspect of our daily lives. Projection, maybe. But as President Franklin Roosevelt said 75 years ago, quote, true individual freedom cannot exist without economic security, end quote. That is why our campaign is calling for a 21st century economic Bill of Rights that guarantees all of our people the right to the basic necessities of life and guarantees those rights regardless of Americans' income, race, religion, gender, country of origin, or sexual orientation. So here you go. That's fully loaded. That's a lot to chew on in itself. He's just opened up a whole social protections right there on the end. You got, you're guaranteed these entitlements regardless of your country of origin, or sexual orientation. Those are social protections. Those are social protections that, that's a manufactured provision, just like these rights that he's quoting here. So he also goes on, the 21st Century Economic Bill of Rights established that all Americans are entitled to, 1, the right to a job that pays a living wage. Number 2, the right to quality health care. 3, the right to a complete education. Number 4, the right to affordable housing. Number 5, the right to a clean environment. And number 6, the right to a secure retirement. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here again we have a big government and overreach. And much like history, FDR created an alphabet soup government overreach. And this is no different. In fact, FDR signed off on quite a few things that basically kind of foreshadowed, where the Democrats want to go right now. One world government. You're basically, and he's mentioning country of origin or sexual orientation. So to me, he's already given freedom. How can you give freedoms? Just give freedoms to people of country of origin. He's not being specific. It's a lot in what he's not saying, but he's saying enough that this does not look like capitalism would survive or freedom would survive, because he wants to tell you what you can and cannot have. He and AOC, they know what's best, right? So that's what I kind of wanted to get out in the first part of this. But this is all about, they're mobilizing and rallying and bringing all these private and public partnerships together to create this, some say, new world order, or it's a UN agenda. They're trying to accomplish something very specific here, and it all kind of ties together. So hopefully, you can kind of follow what I'm saying. Hi, DJ Barnett. So here, let's see. I think I kind of got into most of that, but I don't know what would you guys think about most of these things. I mean, Bernie is, I was never a Bernie Sanders fan. I don't really jump on bandwagons. a lot of people were pro Bernie back in 2016, and I'm just thinking, you guys have no idea. He wants to do something that represents communist, or nations. Like, you have Cuba, you had the former USSR, you have, he wants to do that in a capitalist free society, which is pro less government. And the socialist idea is that the government plays a leading role in the economy. Welfare and equality opportunities. That's what he's offering. But I'm not interested, so I was just thinking, I just wanted to kind of put those ideas out there. And I'm happy to have everybody that's able to tune in from wherever you are. Of course, I'm always happy to have you guys here. So just give me 1 second here. Just trying out a few things. Yeah, so those were like, so generally, I could get into this, like, of course, maybe in another segment, do more breaks. We could break more of these down or deconstruct some of this stuff. But just generally, I really think, from the political side, I always try to leave the political side, because that's our lowest form of government is the political side, the dirty, the grungy pits of politics. I don't know if the establishment is going to let Bernie have his way. I think that they are going to try to lean. I think they're going to try to push Biden ahead into this thing, because they can. President Trump is just rocking them, if you will. He is absolutely rocking them with this whole with everything that he's done for the country. You can even just look at Europe. With the new election in the UK, and you can see that everybody has kind of like, maybe some people are trying to get back into the game, so to speak, by leaning a little bit, trying to go back to the center. But like I've said before, I think there's a huge division in that party. You've got radicals, socialism. You've got a faux establishment that still consists of Joe Biden trying to appeal to moderates. And you probably have the tier below him would be Elizabeth Warren. So you've got like kind of a three-tier representation going on there. That party is, if they don't clean it up, I don't know if they're going to make it through. They might impeachment ad infinitum, but I don't know if they're going to survive. If that party doesn't get it together. I don't know. It's going to be the will of the people. Like, we want government for the people, not of the people. And we definitely don't want socialism here. And we don't want our freedoms crushed and taken away. So let me know what your concerns and your comments are on this particular subject. And of course, I will come back in later and provide you with links. And as always, if you can like, subscribe, share, give me feedback, even if you don't like it, that's feedback. All engagement and interaction is not, it's not always going to be positive. So, it helps me here. It helps with conservative voice suppression. It helps with many things when you can subscribe, comment, like, share, and I appreciate you guys for being here. And so I'll go ahead and close out on that note. And I will certainly be happy to see you here again the next time on Black Spring with Autumn.